Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to this edition of SportsView. Good evening, Joe Waters, and welcome.
Good evening, Pat. Thank you.
And nice to see you again. Now, don't forget to press the red button on the right-hand side as you're looking at it to subscribe to our channel. It's very much appreciated. Well, Joe, I suppose we'll be looking at different sports during the course of the program, but we have to start with the history makers. It's been a long time since Limerick were dominant, we'll say, dominant in hurling. They were always competitive, but in the old days, when you lost your match, you were out for 12 months. You didn't get a chance again to come back till the next year. But I think this is so well. You can't compare the modern hurling today, what it was in the 70s and the 60s. It's really, there's no comparison. The slitter is lighter, the hurleys are lighter. So
Yeah.
as well as that, the skill levels are much, you can't compare them really. It'd be unfair. But nevertheless, I think the fact that they were able to win 4 in a row, it's just the dedication. I know, Joe, I was very impressed with them myself,
Oh, I was totally impressed with him. In the first half, you thought that this was going to be a real tough game for them.
Yeah.
The way Kilkenny came out, but they got lucky with the toss and they decided to play against the wind, which is what they wanted to do. That was part of their game plan, and it worked out for them. Normally, I mean, people when they win the toss, they'll take the wind in the first half, and take their chances the second half. Limerick went the other way with it, and it paid off in spades for him.
I think I only watched it on television myself, but I watched it in last night as well in the Sunday game, the highlights of it. But
yeah,
I agree with you there. I thought that Limerick, I think, I don't know how to describe it. The first half, Kilkenny certainly had the better of the first half in scoring and hurling. They came to grips quicker with the game, but the psychological blow, I think, that Limerick struck before halftime in scoring those 2 points meant that with the wind, Kilkenny only had one score between themselves and Limerick, 1-9, just one score. And I think that made a massive difference certainly to Limerick coming out for the second half,
Well, it would do. And I mean, there were 2 huge points that's for sure. And, when you go into the dressing room at halftime, having come back from something like that, and instead of being, 4 points down, you're 2 points or 3 points down, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It makes, all of a sudden, come on, lads, we're back in this and the whole thing. And all of a sudden, the dynamic in the dressing room changes, and like you said, we're only 1 score away from this and what have you. But then, you have the other side to it in that they went out for the second half, and 2 minutes into the second half or whatever it was, Kilkenny score a goal. And you think to yourself, well, hang on a second, this is now turned it on its head a little bit. And if the second half goes like the first half did, where after they scored, they started coming on and really playing well. Kilkenny, that is, you think to yourself, oh gee, this could be a tough day for us. This could be a real tough day. But then all of a sudden, something just sometimes.
Well, I think myself, Cian Lynch was picked at midfield at the start of the match. He's a fabulous hurler, and if you're a good hurler, they say you could play anywhere, but sometimes maybe not. And I felt, we were watching with lads, I said, lads, they have to put Cian Lynch into centre forward. And just before halftime, Cian Lynch went in centre forward. And the whole balance of the team, I think, settled down.
Yeah.
Forwards are looking on. They knew where he was. I don't know, they seemed to relax more. And certainly, to score 30 points, to score 21 points in the second half. I mean, it was a miserable day. The ball was heavy, like it was raining. It was raining and just wet. and yet they completely and utterly destroyed Kilkenny in the second half.
Oh,
Destroyed
they
them.
did. They
Yeah,
did. And I mean, their shooting from out wide was
yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it was absolutely phenomenal. Just
just
the way they were, the way they were able to put the ball over the bar at the angles they were at and what have you, and they made it just look so easy.
they did. And I mean, people now can get carried away, including myself, but I think people speak when you're on a high after you know yourself after winning a match, Joe. I mean you'd say, well, we could beat Brazil next week if we feel like this, that kind of way. And I think it is legitimate though that Limerick could create a unique historical 5 in a row next year. Now we know what happened the two times, the last 3 times that happened was Kerry were going for 5 in a row. In football in 1982. They had won 79, 78, 79, 1881. They had won. And in 82, they were playing awfully in the All Ireland football final. They were going 5 in a row. They had the jerseys and all printed, the t shirts down in Kerry, the 5 in a row. They had a record out as well, a CD ready and all. And Seamus Darby, and of course, uh, uh, Lowry's dad and Lowry's uncle was on that Offaly team, the golfer, Shane
Mm.
Lowry. And of course, we know what happened in '82. The Seamus Darby got a goal with a few minutes to go, and Offaly won the All Ireland. And Kilkenny were going for 5 in a row. And they won in 06, 07, 08, and 09. And Tip beat him in 2010. But I think the thing about this Limerick team is they've been together, the bulk of that panel have been together from under 14, under 16, under 21, right up. These guys don't have to shout Joe Waters' name. They know where you are.
Yeah.
They know where you are every minute of the feed. They know where you are likely to be. You can't train that. You can't train a team for that, if you know what I mean. It's instinctive. You can't train instinct in players. They either have it or they haven't. Of course you get fitness and diet and all that, but they have to have the skill as well. And I think what they did to Kilkenny in the second half, I think Kilkenny will not recover from this next year. They'll have to make serious changes on their team to compete. They need 6 or 7 players. That's what Limerick have done to many teams down through the years. Cork, it took Cork 2 or 3 years to eventually change managers, change the system, change players, that you have to. The physicality of the match and the strength of Limerick, you have to change your tactic. And I think they're in prime position to do 5 in a row.
Well, I mean, you'd love to see it, but again, you never put the cart in front of the horse because that's a very dangerous thing to do.
It is.
Get carried away with it. And
Yeah.
that, like we talked about before, it's the outside noise that gets to you. But
Yeah.
you look at Limerick, right? They did it this year. Well, they did it last year without two of their best players, right? That were injured. Kane Lynch didn't play last year, right?
No.
He was out, and who else was out last year? That had a cruciate knee ligament, came back this year and played a great game.
Peter Casey.
Peter Casey, and then this year we have two players that are out.
Captain Hannon, the
Yeah,
captain.
two very very important players. So now all of a sudden, this is like getting these guys back next year is like having two $50 million players join you.
There you go. There you go.
And maybe even a bit more with what Hannon brings as the captain and what have you. So, with getting Lynch and Casey back made a huge difference to them, this year, and it helped to alleviate the problems with the other two lads getting injured. So it's they're really set up to be a powerhouse for a while. And I think that, like we all know, the biggest danger for us is going to be in the Munster Championships.
Well, that was the most competitive
Oh yeah,
where there was only
there's
one point
there's
between two
there's
teams.
no other team, and you can talk about all the other teams, right? That have done the four in a row, what have you,
Yeah,
but they have never had the likes of the Clare, the Tipperaries, the Corks that are coming on now, playing against you in your own championship,
yeah, yeah.
and
That's true. That's very true.
it's a huge challenge to get out of it, and that's one that that's one of the things that people talk about, and uh, as I was reading up on stuff, Kilkenny, the Leinster Championships are not that difficult for Kilkenny,
No,
so they're able to use probably 30 players during the course of that championship to give people, because they're always well ahead when
yeah.
they're
I mean,
at
they're
some
still,
stage.
even though they were well beaten now yesterday, Joe, I still think that they are still the best team in Leinster. Galway were very poor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Wexford are gone down for a while, so there's nothing else there really.
yeah, well, I mean, it is like you said, that Limerick have been so far ahead of the game and everything that they're doing in their
Yeah,
preparation and the whole thing.
yeah.
And this group of lads is not an old group of lads.
No.
They're a relatively young group
Oh,
of
you're
lads.
talking about players at 26, 27, 28, at the
Right.
prime, at their prime.
And they're probably even moving into their prime,
Yeah,
because they talk about players being in their prime from the ages of about 28 to
yeah,
32, 33.
yes.
So you're talking that this could be
It's a
an
frightening
unbelievable.
prospect. You're painting about 8 in a row, are you?
Yeah, well, that, I mean, the chance is there,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
but like I said, the banana skin is in Munster,
It
and
is.
that's going to be the biggest. That's going to again be the biggest. But that's what prepares them for the games like the Kilkenny game that they had, and or the
I
Kilkenny
mean,
game yesterday, and the Galway game where they were so far. Galway came out
exactly.
roaring, and it didn't knock a star out of them.
And people forget in the last round robin matches in Munster, if Cork had got a draw against Limerick, I mean, Limerick won by a point. If they had got a draw, if Tip had, as they were raging hot favourites, had beaten Waterford, Limerick were out.
Yeah,
But as we know, Limerick won by a point. They did their bit, and Waterford actually beat Tipperary, which was stunning. But as you said, it's very tough in Munster. But there's a great buzz here. The team came down yesterday after the match to the Woodlands House Hotel in Adair for their banquet last night, and they're back in. They're in the John Square now. They're in the People's Park there, down in Square, singing, and Rasmus has making speeches, and deservedly so. And they'll have a long break now. But anyway, they made history with their 4 in a row. Cork did it in 41, 2, 3, and 4, as I said, with the wonderful Christy Ring. And Christy Ring won 4 medals in a row. He won it then in 1946. He won his fifth medal, and then he won 3 in a row. Christy Ring in 52, 3, and 4. That's when he won his 8 medals. Little did he know then in 1954 that Cork wouldn't win another All Ireland again until 1966, which was the first All Ireland final that I was at, 1966. But there you go. These are the vagaries of hurling. But I mean, as you said, Munster is a thing for Limerick. I think it's a testament to the players that they have to peak for 3 or 4 huge matches in Munster. And when that's over, then the real ding dong battle still begins for Limerick. I don't know how they do it, Joe. I really don't. It's a testament of all the players, the dedication of all the players, and I hope something. I think that team deserves to make real history. We hope they will. We hope they're
oh,
safe.
I agree. I mean, I agree with you totally. They're just. I mean, they're fantastic to watch when they're in full flow.
Oh,
I mean, it's beautiful. And they play with courage on the
they
ball.
do. They
You
do.
know, they're not
And
they're not afraid to be in possession. They're not afraid. Again, I watched it yesterday again, and the amount of times that they're contesting the ball on the ground when there's two and three of them around it, uh, is amazing, you know, and how often they come out with the.
And you know, Joe, as you know, even in any game in soccer as well, if you're brave and if you have courage, like Limerick yesterday, they went for their scores.
Yes.
Some of those scores were very, very difficult to get, knowing full well if they missed them, the groans and moans and all, you know. But every one of them, I think there's a belief, it's instilled in them. Go for your score, win or get it or not, and you will be successful. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I mean, they put. I was reading stuff in it, and they're going. Somebody kind of made a suggestion that it was made easier for them by the fact that they were behind on points, so Kilkenny had to go for goals, so it left them open a little bit more. But you know what? If you're going to do that to Limerick, you know, and leave them open, then they're going to exploit you all the more.
Oh, they're going
And
to.
they have the players. You could let another 20 teams have the ball on the outside, like you let the Limerick players have it yesterday,
Yeah.
and they wouldn't get anywhere near putting it over the bar like the lads did.
No.
So
No.
it's.
I mean, to score 30 points in a wet day with a heavy sitter, I don't care what team you are. It's an astonishing feat.
Haven't they scored 30 points in the last 4 All Irelands?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not too sure. I didn't look up the room, but well, they got the equivalent between goals, a goal or two, and points. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
One. Yeah, 128. That's 31 points. 128 is 31 points in one of the matches. Yeah, today, yeah, just phenomenal.
But there's no other team that's done that.
They had 12 players out of the 15. 12 players scored.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking of my own County Cork. I'm thinking, I think there'll be a few retirees.
Well, you knew that Kilkenny were in trouble yesterday when they were throwing the veteran players into the fray to try and pull it back. You know, but the horse was out the barn door long before that.
As you're looking at SportsView here on LairMedia.tv, we're on here every Monday night, and it'll be up on all our social media channels when we're finished. You can see the details down there. Press the red button to subscribe to our channel. You're with myself and Joe Waters. Joe, Mr. Moneybags scored the winner for Inter Miami.
Yes. I love the quote in the paper.
Go ahead.
Somebody had made a suggestion that the Kuwaiti league was now better than the MLS, and that they were getting better players. And the question was put to Messi after the game, and he said, "What do you make of what so and so said?" I'm not sure it wasn't Ronaldo or somebody said, "Well, the Kuwaiti league is better than the MLS. MLS is where veteran players go to finish their careers." And Messi turned around and he said the Kuwaiti league, he said, when they put their World Cup medals on the table, I listened to them. And that was all he said.
Which is good. I mean, the merchandising alone, and Sergio Busquets is gone there as well. Yeah, and a few more. But I was reading today, Joe, on the wires, as they say, there's been an offer of £260 million for Mbappe. Now, I don't care how wealthy you are. We've spoken about this money in the game before, how it's unbelievable. If you said that to me in a pub, you know, I really want to find out how long have you been in the pub before you said that kind of it. But I think it's obscene.
Well, it is obscene, but you know, it's funny. I read an article on Robbie Fowler the other day. He was talking. He's over in Kuwait and he's playing his trade, coaching, managing over there, and he was saying, you know, he said I always find it interesting that soccer players in particular, the money they make is always questioned by people. But yeah, people in industry and people in sports like golf never get questioned for all the money that they make. And why is it so interesting to people what soccer players are making? And the question I have is it because it's supposedly a working man's sport that people look at it and say, well, that's, and the one thing about working men's sports like soccer, Gaelic games, stuff like that,
Yeah, yeah,
the people in the stand are always going, well, geez, I could do that,
yeah.
and everyone thinks that they can, but in
No,
reality they
no,
they,
no.
they
Yeah, you're
can't.
right.
And
Robbie Fowler has a point. All right, there's no doubt about it.
yeah,
I think, Joe, because it's an individual, it's easy to criticize a person.
yes,
Like Mbappe is the fall guy. Now, I mean, Mbappe, God forgive me, could go out in the next game and his career could be finished with a tackle.
yes, you could.
Now, I mean,
And
people should think of that too, because it could be a 5-year, a 10-year career if you're very lucky, or it could be 2 years.
right, I mean, look what Phil Mickelson got for going to
Yeah.
live, right? So what's the difference
No difference.
in that? There's no difference. They're two sportsmen
No.
doing it, and yeah, I have no problem with it whatsoever. What people make,
I think
I remember
I
Lee
think
Trevino.
it's a fundamental prejudice against working class people.
Well, it is.
In
One of
a
the good.
way, it is. In a way,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, it is. I mean, it is. But I mean, I understand it as well. But Lee Trevino used to talk about when he was winning majors and what have you,
Yeah.
and he says, well, he said everybody talks to me about, well, you're making all this money from golf and you're doing this and doing that. He said, when I started playing golf, he said, and I was caddying at the club that I worked at. He said, I'm a Latino. I couldn't even play on the club that I was
Yeah.
caddying at.
He
He
wasn't
said,
allowed to play.
I wasn't allowed to play. He said, you know how I made my money? He said, I challenged the members to putting competitions. Right? He said, you know what I putted with? A beer bottle. He putted with a beer bottle and had bets with members, and he won. And that's how he made his money to keep himself going. And then he came in and made it big time after that. But that's the reality of how
I
people start
loved
out,
I was looking, I loved watching Trevino.
Yeah.
I just loved the devil may care attitude. He just I'm here to play golf, I'm here to win, and F you all.
Yeah.
I don't care what you think of me. I think he reminded me later on then in the 80s when the other flamboyant character Ballesteros came along.
Yeah.
He was in the same ilk as Lee
Yeah.
Trevino.
Yeah. They were cut from the same cloth. Yeah.
We don't have enough of them. We don't have enough of them in the golf.
You have John Daly that misses the cut at the Open this weekend.
That's right, yeah.
And there's a picture of him going to Hooters after he misses the cut.
Yeah.
And they're all making John Daly misses the cut. He doesn't care. He's in Hooters. And it's like, what's the problem? He can do whatever he wants. Really.
As John Daly said to one of the reporters, I don't know if you see that or not.
No.
He said, what are you sagging me off, Mr. Cut? He said, I finished 3 strokes better than Dustin Johnson. He missed the cut as well.
So it's all whatever. I don't know. They just pick on people.
I think they do. You're right. They do. And I think that some players, McIlroy doesn't help himself. I think he gives. We said this before. He gives too many interviews.
Yeah. Well, he does. But fair play to him. He has something to say and he sticks up for it.
That's true as well. He played well. He played well. I must say he played well. And
he did. And it was. Let's be honest. What's his name? The winner, Harman.
Brian Harman, the farmer from Georgia.
Yeah, he played out of his skin.
People were shell shocked.
Oh, I'm watching I'm watching the highlights of some of the putts that he made,
Yeah.
and it was just like draining them from all over the place. And you're going, wow, this guy
Well,
has got nerves of steel.
my son now he's in holidays this week for a few days. They all went off this morning at 8 o'clock except these boys. They play golf. And I know how good they are. I never saw them playing, but at least it's healthy pursuit anyway. They're gone off. But we were watching it and we were seeing Evan and myself. He said, Dad, I think that Harman will either lose the Open today or be so far ahead that it'll be over. That's on the Saturday. And of course, he was 5 or 6 strokes ahead of the field on Saturday. I don't think he was ever going to lose it.
No, I don't think he was either.
Because if you were behind him, every shot you took had to be a good shot.
And that's the
Every
difference
shot.
in it.
Yeah.
And that's what Rory said. Rory said that, he was out there. He said it was just really difficult. He said, because for me to win it, it would have taken a real low score, a 63, 64, something like that. And he said in that weather, he said that was so tough to do that.
It wasn't achievable, but you never know. But Harman, anyway, as we were talking about him, he finished at minus 13, and he won. This is what he won, as we're talking about it. And he won 67, 65, 69, and 70, which are astonishing. Minus 13. He won £3 million sterling, but that's not the point. It's he's a major winner of the oldest one, and it's probably called the most important one, I suppose, of the four, and that's the most prestigious of them all, the famous claret jug,
Yeah, I had a good story the other day, or I was reading it. I was reading Paul Kimmage, and he was doing he did an article on Nick Faldo, right, and how good Faldo is and what have you, and what have you. Well, Faldo, when he was on top of his game, he used to pick 12 young golfers in his academy, and they would take them to different places, and they would, they'd train them. His coach would coach him, and the manager would help manage and all that kind of stuff. And there was males and females, and Rory was one of them. And he interviewed Rory. This article that I read, and it said, Rory and was asked, well, I want to be a professional and what have you. And then there were these two other players that were interviewed, and they were, in Faldo's opinion, they were going to be, one was a female, one was a male, and that they were really the talents in the group.
Yes, that stood out.
They were the top ones that they all thought were going to make it and move on. 3 years later, your man's giving golf up, and 2 years later, the lady is doing Swedish TV. She was Scandinavian, and she's doing Swedish TV, and Rory is there. But the story was that Lowry, Harrington, and McIlroy are on the tee at Royal Liverpool, and Faldo comes out to join him, right? And a fella came out the pro shop, said, "Gentlemen, do you have a tea time?" And one of them looked at him and said, "Hey man, we've got 4 claret jugs here. We need a tea time." It's just like, you guys got a tea time?
Right. Yeah, right. We have,
right. Why don't you go back?
Well, Lowry had a very disappointing one. Harrington made it through to the weekend. That's Barry Harrington, and he finished down the field, but he got £40,000 sterling for his effort. He finished at minus 18, plus 8. I beg your pardon, 21 shot, but all his zones were in the 70s, which was, a testament of how difficult it was for him,
right,
for Porrick. But nevertheless, he was the last golfer to win back-to-back British Opens.
Right.
And so there you go.
That's a huge achievement. So Shane broke one of his clubs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I snapped it.
He did, yeah, he did, and
You know, when I first started playing golf, a friend of mine got me into it. Rolly Godfrey, he's a great friend of mine from Grimsby,
yeah,
and we I used to get real frustrated, when I hit a bad shot. And he says, you know what? He said, I learned very early on. He said, if you're going to get mad and you're going to throw your club, he said, throw it in the direction that you're going to be walking. He said, because you don't want to waste your energy going to pick it up again. So toss it wherever you're walking.
that was good advice.
Pick it
We
up on the
did.
way.
And of course, what we on getting back to a bit of soccer news, there's very little of it,
Yeah.
but Sadio Mane is the next target for the Saudi Arabian team.
Yeah.
I was reading this morning. It looks like there could be a deal done with Sadio Mane. Don't take our time. I was just reading between the lines on it, because there's nothing decided until you put pen to paper, as they say. But
Yeah.
Harry Kane, Bayern Munich are still interested in buying Harry Kane, believe it or not, But I think the manager said something in one of I didn't write down where it was from, that if he doesn't if a deal doesn't happen, Kane will be with Spurs for this year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that whole deal has already got the issues going on at Bayern Munich because Manuel Neuer and Thomas Müller are pretty upset with the length of contract that Harry Kane is going to get, because they can't get contracts that are that length.
No.
So they're upset with it. So it's already causing a little bit of discord there. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But we're talking, well, two things. Another soccer one after this, but which is real news today. But when you were talking about Mbappe and the money and what have you, Mbappe didn't ask the Saudis for that money.
No,
they offered it.
No, that's right.
They came and said, we want to give you this money to play for us for a year. And you know what's in the contract? That at the end of it, he can go and play for Real Madrid. They're not going to stand in his way.
Oh, I see.
So that's what the deal is right there.
Goodness me.
Yeah. So it's interesting from that standpoint. But the biggest news the day here is Trevor Francis died.
When?
Last night.
Oh, we didn't have him in the wires this morning.
Yeah, he died of a heart attack.
Oh, dear me.
Yeah.
What age was he?
69 years of age, same age as myself.
Joe. God, one of the good ones again.
Oh, great. Terrific player.
I love listening to him. To him,
Yeah.
Oh, that's very sad news now,
Yeah.
We'll do a little bit next week on him,
Yeah.
Prepare a little bit on pro. God, well, obviously condolences to his family, his immediate family, and obviously all his close friends and all people who played against him and gave him a few kicks and all, yesterday, whatever, on him. Poor Trevor Francis. I didn't know that though, Joe, I'm sorry about that, poor man. Did he play with QPR, didn't he?
He did. I think he finished up with QPR.
He played with QPR. It's in my head with the blue and white stripe.
QPR and Sheffield Wednesday. He was player coach at Sheffield Wednesday with Ron Atkinson, and took over from Ron. And they finished, I think, fourth in the first division, and they got to the FA Cup final and League Cup final, and they lost both of them to Arsenal. And I remember one of them. I think Arsenal had a corner or a free kick. I think it was a corner, and Chris Woods, I think, was in goal for Wednesday. I think Wednesday.
I remember Chris Woods. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Wednesday might have been winning 2-1, and the corner is about to be taken, and Trevor turned around and he was talking to somebody on the bench, maybe his assistant manager or his coach or something like that, and the ball swung in, and Chris Woods drops it, and Arsenal score and equalise. And then Trevor turned around and he looked, and then he just turned back and he said, what just happened there? And he completely missed it because he'd been in discussion with it. But I mean, they were so unlucky in those games
I know,
that
yeah.
they could have.
The small fellas and Man U beat Arsenal last night over in the
I
States.
saw that. Yeah,
It was on ESPN. All the Man U heads, including my son, were watching it. Like, and,
yeah, yeah.
you know, was that did Harry Maguire playing? He played in the first half, didn't he?
I think he did. I
Yeah,
think he did.
he did. Yeah,
Yeah. So, but yeah.
he's not going anywhere.
Well, it doesn't appear that anybody is willing
It's the
to take
wages.
on
It's
his
his
wages.
wages.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you said, we said it before about a lot of players. He would be gone to West Ham, but they won't pay that kind of money.
No, no, no.
No, they
And
won't.
I mean, again, he's, people say, well, he's got to leave. I mean, he's just costing our club money. Hang on a second. The club agreed to that contract,
They did.
and this is the thing that I cannot get over with people.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody, it's a bit like Ryan Tuberty, right? Big scandal going on about that. But
Yeah.
you know what? His agent asked for the money. RTE agreed to pay him it.
Well,
Right?
certainly a few people did agree that
Yeah.
and signed off on it.
And signed off on it. So what's the problem? Why is he the bad guy when he has this talent and he's only going to be able to do it for a certain period of time? And he
Yep.
asked that his agent asked for the money, and they said yeah. So that's always the thing that throws me. But if a player or somebody doesn't do well but has a contract, they all go, well, we need to get rid of him. He needs to go. Why is he not leaving? Well, why should he leave?
Yes.
He's not doing anything wrong.
No, he
because
isn't.
He doesn't fit in right now.
True, and I think that, well, it's obvious to me now. Although there's nothing obvious in soccer. Say next week we could be talking about him going somewhere else, but I think he wants to stay in United.
Well, I mean, who really, in their right mind, would want to leave United as an experienced player?
Yeah.
I understand Milanga and those guys wanting to get out and what have you.
Yeah.
He just left, right? And some of the younger fellas wanting to get out and play first team football. I totally understand that. That's a different dynamic. But he's got to just decide what he wants to do, because realistically, if he stays at United and he's a bit part player, he's out of the England team.
Well, see, that's the fear that Harry has, because he's the captain of England.
Yeah.
And obviously there has to be determination by the manager. You must be able to play regular football, not every game, but as you said, if it's only going to be a sub that's going to be used now and then, I don't care how dedicated you are, you're going to lose that sharpness and you're going to lose a bit of fitness.
Oh, yes, you are. Yeah.
And for the position he's in, that would be absolutely vital, for the position.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So the Women's World Cup is on, as you know, and I've watched it. Did you see any of it yet?
I've seen a little bit of it, yeah.
I watched a bit of. I know I hate coming back to it again. This VAR business, I think, is just Joe. Well, England and Haiti. I watched a lot of that match. I did you see it?
No, I didn't see that one.
And England got a penalty. Well, VAR gave them a penalty. Now, looking at it, you might give it. I might give it. I don't know. But anyway, the penalty was given. The penalty was saved. And Haiti now, as you know, are the minnows in soccer. They'll be like Ireland, nothing expected. The penalty was reordered to be taken, and they went to VAR. Now, my way, if a keeper has to move forward to save. A keeper can't save the ball behind the line in soccer because it's a goal.
Right.
And a keeper has to come off her line in this case to save it. And the English player had taken the kick and the keeper moved and saved it. It was instinctive. It wasn't purposeful. And she went the right way and saved it. And they ordered a retake. Well, VAR did. And to me, it was a huge injustice to the girls. The Haitians were very exuberant. Really got in their face. Really good. I thought they were very good. Not because
Yeah,
they were playing England, but England were poor as well. I must say that. But
yeah.
and
Well, I
that,
mean,
and that was the difference between the teams.
well, yeah, but I mean, I, and I understand exactly what you're talking about. I mean, um,
Yeah,
there was a time there in the women's game where goalkeepers were taking a couple of steps off their line because they don't cover the full goal uh, as well. Some of the shorter keepers don't do it, so they were encouraged to attack the ball,
yeah,
right? Step to it and make the angle to go past you a little bit tougher for the player, and dive one way or the other, make a decision.
yeah,
Um, but then that's why they changed that you can move across your line, and you can step 1 foot off of it, but you can't if you take both feet off the line, then you're encroaching. So I don't know what VAR saw on that. I didn't see it,
yeah.
so I could only imagine that would be what they saw.
I was watching it on ITV. They didn't make much of it on the English channel anyway. But to me, I
No,
thought it was a shocking decision to retake
yeah.
it. That's me. But England won
But
anyway.
well,
America.
we're sympathetic with that because we've had it so many times.
Oh God.
It happened to
Yeah.
us at one sport or another,
Yeah.
where we've always, I just remember being with the Irish squad when um, we played in France in a qualifier. Platini and all those guys were playing, and we eventually lost 2-0. But I think at 1-0 we equalised, and I think it was a Yugoslav referee. All of a sudden, linesman, I'm not sure if he did anything or what, but the referee found something wrong with it and disallowed the goal. But
Surprise,
you're
surprise. And so
surprise, surprise.
the famous
And
night over
yeah,
against
and I
Belgium.
remember
Was it
Owen
Belgium?
Hans saying the same thing.
Yeah.
People said the look of the Irish.
No.
He said, I'd say in soccer it's the bad look of the Irish
It is.
because we've had goals. Yeah,
One hand to me was. I mean, there was a blatant injustice done in two of those games that I were involved in. I think one of them was against Belgium over in Belgium. I think it was shocking when there was a goal disallowed for Ireland. And we should have gone to the 80. Was it the 82 World Cup? Yeah, the 82 World Cup. Is it 82? I think we should have gone to that World Cup. Only for those awful decisions, but. It's terrible. I mean, getting back to the referee in the hurling, yes, I know it's a different game, was fantastic.
yeah. I thought he did a fine job.
He wasn't noticed at all in the whole match.
And that's what I was just going to say. You hardly noticed him in the
Yeah,
game.
and you, I bet you, and I know myself, when you're thinking back to after you said, you never even said, oh, he got this wrong, or he shouldn't have done. No one said anything. John Keenan, brilliant man, a brilliant game.
Yeah.
Common sense, Joe. We said it here often. Common sense. He had a load of it,
Yeah. And
You know.
that was he's 50 years of age, and that was his last game yesterday.
Yeah, under the rules at home, but they've been asked to look at that because a few good referees are few and far between, as we know ourselves.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think they're looking at that because I think that age should never come into it. I think if you're fit enough and you're healthy enough to referee at that level, you go and referee. I don't know what is for FIFA referees. I think it's 55, is it?
I'm not sure if it's 55, but I know that they have a yearly test that they have to do to keep their qualification to be able to do FIFA games and what have you.
Now the Formula One was on the weekend in Hungary, and guess who won it?
Yeah.
We have nothing personally against Verstappen. We have nothing against him now. Let's say, but we're saying we're looking at what is the. He didn't even start in pole this time. He started fourth in the grid.
Right, and then Hamilton
Hamilton started in pole position, but he wasn't even on the top three.
Well, didn't he manage to mess it up from the start? Didn't he get a bad start
He did.
or bad communication from his group or something like that?
Oh, he did.
You know, it never rains but it pours. You know.
Yeah. Well, anyway, he's one. He's. I think that's over anyway. And in cycling, Van der Gaard won the Tour de France for the second year in a row. You know, but he looks terrific. I watched some highlights of some of the stages, but I'm afraid. I mean, it's just me, my age. I can't watch cycling anymore. You know, maybe the amateur stuff here in Ireland, but I can't watch professional cycling anymore. That's just me. You know, I don't believe it.
And I'm the same as you. After the Lance Armstrong thing, for so long, I believed that he was innocent and that
Yeah.
there was, there was people were just up against him, up against him. Yeah, and after that, then that done me in because
Well,
it's just
I think
rampant.
Joe, yeah, I took a simple view to like you and I. If you were caught doping, hold your hands up. You'd be whatever punishment and take it.
Right.
But
And
Lance Armstrong, the scale of it, was off the charts.
oh, it was terrible.
It,
It was terrible. I mean, I remember playing an FA Cup match at Queens Park Rangers.
yeah.
When I was at Grimsby, and after the game, I was chosen, and one of the QPR players was chosen to have to go into a room after the match and give a urine sample. Right. Well, you know yourself, after playing 90 minutes a game, there's not much liquid left inside your body.
You can't make it. You can't make it.
And you're not allowed to drink anything. You're not allowed to have any water or anything like that. So you have to wait till you can actually give your test. And eventually, anyway, we did it. And you know what irritated me was the fact that by the time I got out and got down to the players' room, I couldn't get a pint because we were getting on the bus right from there. And that was it. So, but I mean, it's back as far as then in soccer, we were drug testing people after. No, it was that only cup games back then that you would do it in. And so
I don't know, Joe. I don't know how what they do now. Obviously, there has to be drug testing. I understand that in all sports. I mean, the environment in the world we live in, you know, but it's unfortunate for cycling because I believe the majority of professional cyclists are clean.
Yeah,
I believe they are, and I believe it. But I might have my own personal view of it. You know,
Yeah.
I'd look at it all right, you know, but to me, it wouldn't be attractive, really. You know, now the American team, the ladies' team, had a win, obviously in the World Cup. An easy win. They're one of the favourites to win it. They've won it 4 times already, I think. Yeah, this is the 9th edition of the Women's World Cup. They've won it 3 or 4 times, and Germany, Norway, and Japan. Japan won their match very well as well. The Japanese team, to me, are one of the most dangerous teams in the competition, and the Japan. They showed the Japanese dressing room after the World Cup. They had it cleaned from top to bottom. Every bit of rubbish picked up. Every single thing picked up. The supporters had cleaned the stadium where they were sitting. The Japanese supporters, you know.
Yeah.
You know, we should.
No, they're a credit to the game. You know, and there's so many players coming out of Japan now.
Yeah.
In the men's and the women's side of it. Yeah. And I love watching the Japanese women play.
Yeah.
They are so fun to watch. They play good football. They work hard. They're full of energy, and they're just.
I think they're excellent. I'd love to see them winning the World Cup. You know.
Yeah.
With apologies to all the rest of them. Brazil maybe too. Brazil have never won it.
No. No.
The Ladies World Cup, as I said, it's the ninth edition, but they've been unlucky now. I must say they've been unlucky in 2 World Cups. But
Yeah.
there you go in 2 finals. But however, anyway, it's on the Ireland are playing Canada next, and then they're playing Nigeria in the last group match. So they have to. It's imperative. They have to get a point from Canada at least.
Right. That's going to be a tough ask.
It is because they're the Olympic champions and they're one of the favorite teams as well to ask
They're good.
to win
They're
the
good.
competition. Or they're good. I saw them, they're a good team. You never know on the day. They might get a draw and then they'd have to go all out to beat Nigeria. But I would fancy them to beat Nigeria because they are poor.
Are there?
They're
I
Nigerian
haven't
team.
had a chance to watch them play.
So if they get a point from Canada and get 3 points from Nigeria, then they'll be meeting. They could meet England in the last 16.
Yeah. I just find it interesting. I've been following it and watching it, and the fans' reaction to the games. Like England won 1-0 their first game, I think.
Yeah.
The US, I think, might have won the first game 1-0, and the second one, I think they won 3-0, but they didn't play that well. And it always amazes me that fans want perfection every time.
Yeah.
They want you to win, but they want you to win in style.
Yes.
Every single time. And if we can't beat them and look good against them, how are we going to do it against the big teams and what have you? The fact is that getting out the group is the most important thing right now.
Absolutely. And people should, and we saw it in the World Cup with Argentina how they struggled to get out of the group.
Right.
And people wrote them off.
Yeah.
They won the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and that's the thing with it, I mean,
yeah.
It's I watched they have a huge competition here in the US in college, the NCAA championships, and they're regionals to start off with, and then you get to the Elite Eight and the Final Four, and then you get to, and it's all that weekend is huge. And I watched the preliminary rounds of it one year, and I watched the first match, and I'm watching it, and this team eventually won, right? Yeah. But it was a game that you looked at and you went, these two teams don't even deserve to be here, right? Because they look so amateurish. They didn't look polished. They didn't look poised. All of a sudden they end up in the Final Four. And as the tournament went on, they got better and they got better.
There you go.
They were able to win close matches because they had it mentally. They were involved in those all along. And it's not how you start the tournament, it's how you finish it.
Exactly. And as you said, the objective at this stage of the World Cup up to next weekend is to get out of your group.
Yes.
And after that, you can throw the shackles off because it's knockout.
Exactly.
It's a one-off then after that. Yeah. Before we go, Joe, I must say congratulations to Fairview Rangers. Fairview Rangers.
Oh, yeah.
Work has well begun on their stand.
They're putting a stand up there.
Yeah. So I wish them well.
Which side are they putting? Are they putting it on the tank side, the Gary Owen side?
Yeah, on the side opposite the bar.
Okay, yeah, the Gary Owen side of it.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, at the back up there, I think they might still be up there. There are water tanks up there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, water storage tanks up there. Mr. Cusick used to look after them.
Right.
And we were always as children when I lived on the Pike.
Yeah.
Before it was torn down. Myself and Gerald Connell went up there one night, and we were always hanging out and doing things. Two of us were about probably 4 years of age at a time, and you were always told stay away from the tanks. You can't go up there. If Mr. Cusick catches you, he'll kill you. So it was like one of those. Yeah. So Mr. Cusick catches us anyway, and we're just legging it down the hill. All of a sudden, I fall. I bust my nose on the ground, but I get up and run because if he catches me, he's going to kill me. So yeah, that place has so different than when I was a kid, and we used to watch Fairview and the Pike play up there, and we used
Yeah.
to play ourselves, and that was the original pitch that you kicked uphill going both ways.
Yeah, and the captain of Pike for the last 2 years, Stephen McGann, just to give a little bit of local soccer news, he's moved back to Innis in Clare. He's from Innis anyway, Stephen McGann. And he's gone back to Avenue United in Clare, but he's started a little business in Innis. But he'd be a loss to Pike Rovers because he was their captain. Fine player midfield, good
Yeah,
player. But there you go, they're all the Vegas. There have been loads of movement as well. This time of the year, as you know,
yeah.
people move around. If their job changes or their work changes and they're, with all the travelling. And there's fair commitment, as you know, in junior soccer as well,
Oh, there's a huge commitment now.
Huge commitment.
It used to be in the old days, when I was young and I was supporting Pike and what have you. The training would really start when you started having success in the FAI, the FAI Junior Cup or the Munster Junior. But the Pike had nowhere to train back then. We used to go out to the Ennis Road to the tennis club that was out there.
Yeah.
And they had a big open area, a big open field out there. And Dick O'Brien, Lord of mercy on him, who played for the Pike, Paddy Casey and all those guys were playing at the time. And Dick O'Brien brought me out to train with him.
Oh my God.
And I was only like 13 12, 13 at the time. And it was a great experience just being around those fellas and playing with them.
Yeah.
I used to watch them all the time.
We have to pay tribute to those hundreds, thousands and thousands of those volunteers who give their time, to coach and dedicate their time and to look after young lads. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's incredible the amount of work that goes on in any club. I know from my own experience. It's just incredible.
I was looking at some photographs last week and bringing back memories of the people that I remembered from back in the day, like people like Pa Wilmot from Weston up Prospect Way, and then Bomber Sheehan, Mr. Sheehan from Hyde Rovers. I mean, Hyde would not have existed without these guys and with Pa Wilmot and guys like that. They were just giving their time to young fellas so they could get off the streets and be out playing a game.
I mean,
and give them some.
You're right. It's only when I had my own kids, Evan, like was the eldest, when I was taking them to under 9 matches. Under 9. I mean, that's not today or yesterday. No, that's 30 odd years ago, like. And the amount of people that were dedicated to those teams.
Oh yeah. Training
them, looking after them. It's all I used to do was take my young fella to the training, and that was it.
Yeah.
And that in itself was a commitment. And then take him to the matches or use your car to go to the matches. I mean, it's incredible, Joe. These are the unsung heroes everywhere, even where you live. Every country has them.
Oh yeah.
Unsung heroes. These are the people that their names should be up in headlines,
Oh yeah. Sue and I were pretty. We were coaches. We were pretty successful. We coached in college and what have you. And I coached a little bit of pro and what have you. But our kids, when they played, we had one rule, right? We never talk about your coaches, right? We're never going to critique your coach. We're never going to say a word against them because they're out there putting their time in for nothing to help you.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm not going to second guess him.
No,
that's not my job. Is here is to support you and to support them and thank them for what they do.
Yeah, I was the same when I bring along the kids, and the same with referees. Give up their time. Look, really and truly, it's the same thing with underage. Although there was much refereeing, one team had 2 or 3 big fellas, and they ran away with the match anyway.
Yeah.
That kind of way when you get that age group. But as we said, the unsung heroes, Joe. We've come to the end of another edition of this. We wish Limerick well for the drive for 5.
Yes.
I think God, the players, I think they just have to block it out, But it's a fantastic achievement again for the Treaty. Treaty United were knocked out of the FAI Cup, for people who mightn't have seen that over the weekend.
I saw that.
By Cork City, but there you go. These are the vagaries of soccer. But Joe, for your time and for your patience again and putting up with us here on SportsView. Until we meet again, Joe, take care and have a good sporting week.
And you, Pat. Thanks very much.
Bye-bye now. Take care.
Bye.